All right. Good morning, everyone. Okay, once again, good morning. All right, I think some of us drove 2 hours, some drove 3 hours. I think we need a big welcome to everyone. So once again, good morning. Thank you, thank you. My name is Tim Dorsey. I am president of the Ohio Alliance of Dual Enrollment Partnerships, or as we call it, OADEP. I am also director of dual enrollment at Cuyahoga Community College. I would first like to thank everyone for attending. As you can see, many people throughout the state. I mean, we are drawing from every corner of the state today, whether it is a community college, a four-year public, four-year private, K through 12 school districts, career centers. This is an important topic, College Credit Plus, as it comes into transition from really PSCO to College Credit Plus starting in the fall of 15. So I do thank you for attending. Although we are the host, OADEP is the host of this one-day workshop, we truly believe this is about you. We are practitioners just like you. All of us are volunteers on this organization. We have full-time jobs. Some of us through this have second full-time jobs that we volunteer for. But we really want to make this event, this workshop, really about you. So we've tried to do our best to include you. So we hope that you, at the appropriate times, will participate as well. So OADEP, how did OADEP come about? Briefly, and I'm going to mention this in my next slide, but NACEP, the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Programs or Partnerships. Concurrent really is dual enrollment to us, concurrent enrollment. If you go really west of the Mississippi River, they call it concurrent enrollment. And in 2009, 2008, there were representatives from Ohio from various institutions and school districts that attended this national conference in Minneapolis. At that conference, we decided that we, as a group, in 2009, would start meeting monthly, bi-monthly, just to talk about best practices, things of that nature. Earlier this year, we thought it was in our best interest, and really in the best interest of the people attending today and everyone throughout the state that is involved in dual enrollment, that we would officially organize ourselves through the state of Ohio. And that's how we came up with the Ohio Alliance of Dual Enrollment Partnerships. And really, when our mission is really focused around three things: advocacy, which we're here today to talk about College Credit Plus, quality of program, so that when students take these classes and they step foot onto a college campus, that the class that they took while in high school is the quality and meets the standards of a class after they graduate high school and attend college. And third is really professional development, which this is a part of as well, and program development. So those are our three main focuses. I think more importantly, OADEP wants to be the voice of dual enrollment in Ohio. As far as I know, we are the only organization dedicated to dual enrollment, where the courses take place in the high school, the only organization in the state of Ohio. So there are board members here. If they are in this room, please stand. We've done a tremendous lot of work over the last year, and really over the last 2 months. The power of social media. We had 35 registrants in the beginning of September. We have over 300 here today. We did a lot of work through social media, emails, contacting people. So if we could just give a round of applause to the board members, please, who did a lot of work. NACEP. Who's heard of NACEP before? Okay. So NACEP is a national organization that is, without them, we would not be here today. They have been a tremendous resource, support. You have information from them. They are putting on an event much larger than this, Chicago. When I went in 2008, 2009, I think it was 250, 300 people. They have 800 attendees at the end of the month. Really around dual enrollment and the quality of the program, best practices and things of that nature. Under the leadership of Adam Lowe, their executive director, they have been on Capitol Hill. He particularly travels throughout the country, giving talks, promoting dual enrollment. They really are a great resource. I encourage you to look at them. They are just nasep.org. Okay, so we're here for College Credit Plus. The next best thing since the Common Core, as I like to say. What's funny is College Credit Plus. I called it when I would speak with the leadership at Tri-C and some of the superintendents. It's a mysterious, hot topic in the state. Everyone knows the name. Not many people know much about it. All right, and I think that's why we're here today, is really talk about it, to have a discussion about what College Credit Plus means to individuals within this room. I will say this, as we move from PSEO to College Credit Plus, I think it's an important initiative. And the reason I say that is, does anyone know when PSEO started in the state of Ohio? What year? 89, 1989. In 1989, the cost for tuition and fees at a four-year public school was $1,694. At a two-year school, it was $842. In 2013, the cost of tuition and fees for a four-year public, and this is national, I will say that, is $8,890. And at a three-year, it's about $3,000. Not to mention just that the cost has gone up, but we, as a society, expect more and more high school students after graduation to attend some sort of post-secondary education. So not only the cost is going up, but we're influencing the access that that individual students need to go on after high school to earn some sort of degree or certificate. I think College Credit Plus can help with this. So I'm very happy that the state of Ohio has decided to really re-examine it, revamp, you could say that as well, but really take a hard look at what this program is and really how is it impacting students, not just maybe us in this room. So how did we get here to today? So talking with board members, talking with school superintendents in my area in Cleveland, talking with school counselors. Here's what we have encountered, but really here's what I have encountered. How many are here? How many are clueless? It's okay to admit, Yeah, I mean, this stems really from a conversation I had with a high school counselor. She walks in, we're meeting with her. She had packets of stuff. I don't know where she got this for College Credit Plus. But she came in and I said, so what do you think? She goes, I'm clueless. And I said, okay, we're here to help. So what happens is, you hit this. You hit the help sign, right? And you call that person. It may be me. It could be Sharon Schroeder at Youngstown State, Pam Allen at Ohio Dominican, David Rossman at Findlay, Larry Campbell at West Carleton. These are the people that, like me, are really entrenched in this. All right? So you go and have these conversations, and you talk about the pathways. You talk about expectations. In case you don't know, you're going to learn about pathways today, 15 credit hour and 30 credit hour pathways. All right? And you just get into the detail of it. And then you're like, and this would be me. Sorry, skip the slide. I was the one that could help. But then you're this. You're like, why did I go have this conversation with this individual? Now I'm not sure what to do. I'm overloaded. And that's the conversation that one counselor had. She came in clueless, right? We helped her, but then she left. She looked at me. She goes, I'm not sure what I need to do now. All right? I'm overloaded. This is new. This is change. All right? So I think today, really, we want to this sets the tone. We know everyone in this room comes from a variety of backgrounds, K through 12, 2-year public, 2-year private, 4-year public, 4-year private, and our K through 12s, once again, private and public. We understand that. We hope today we are meeting everyone's needs and questions. I'm sure you all came with questions. I have no doubt about that, right? Some of them may be answered, some may not. Some new questions may be generated. But once again, I thank you for coming today. Please participate when it is time, and we will let you know that. But our next guest is Lauren McGarity. She is going from the Ohio Board of Regents. She has been leading the charge in College Credit Plus. She's going to present on College Credit Plus. She's also accompanied by Rebecca Watts, who is also with the Ohio Board of Regents. They are champions of College Credit Plus. They're here to answer your questions. So how we're going to do this? I think Lauren is going to present with support from Rebecca. We're going to get through her presentation. Then we're going to open it up for questions. I think there's too many of us here today to take questions as she is presenting. So please give a warm welcome to Lauren McGarity and Rebecca Watts.
I love that warm welcome. We want to leave with a warm goodbye, too. Okay. Let's see where I can.
Well, I'm gonna frame it a little bit before Lauren gets started. So some of the setup was that we are champions of College Credit Plus. We are champions of students, just like all of you in this room. And what we'll talk about today will have implications for your work, but the most important thing that we need you to listen to. Lauren took it away from me. I couldn't use it. So in this setup, it was said that we were champions of College Credit Plus. We are champions of students, just like you. All of us in this room share that common mission and that common goal. And one of the other things that we talked about was in the setup is that we're going to talk about the implications for you, which we know that you have lots of work to do around this. But the most important thing for all of us to keep in front of us in all of the discussions today is access and opportunity for students so that they can get post-secondary success that leads them to lifelong success. So I just wanted to frame that so that we are with you. We're all working for the same goal, student success.
Thank you. Ditto. All right, so let me make sure I know how to, yes, okay, great. So this is a conversation about, or will be a conversation about College Credit Plus, and we will be providing you with a lot of information. And as Rebecca said, this is part of an emphasis towards student success that is a goal and objective and daily work of everybody in the room and the overflow room, which, by the way, indicates that that everybody in the state of Ohio wants to do it right. Okay, thank you.
Looks like you're going to walk.
Oh, I might walk. Thank you. So this is about maximizing the post-secondary credits during high school. And because I think that there are some folks that work in the career technical education realm here, perhaps, I want to make sure that this is in context because it's not a siloed program. One thing about College Credit Plus and the entire dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment reform for the state of Ohio is that it be integrated into everything else that we're doing so that it not be just a siloed, standalone program that only a few know about. So within the high school experience, within the secondary experience, there's the opportunity to earn college credit in a variety of ways, actually 3 ways. One is with the articulated credit, and it says here there can be statewide articulated credit or there can be bilateral agreements that confer articulated credit. The key here is that articulated credit under career technical education is not part of College Credit Plus. It is an additional opportunity for students to potentially earn post-secondary credit during high school, during their secondary experience. The transcripted credit, which we'll get into the definition, but the transcripted credit opportunities is College Credit Plus. So College Credit Plus participation from a student's perspective is available to every student who's qualified, regardless of whether they're in a straight general education secondary track, so to speak, or whether they're in a career technical education career field track, okay? So the key here is that it's transcripted credit. All secondary potential for college credit is not the same. So I want to make sure that everybody, and I know that this is redundant for many, but if there's one person in the room who will be informed by this, I want to make sure that one person leaves with this distinction of what's what, okay? So when a student takes an AP class, an advanced placement class, it is a high school class. They must then take a third-party assessment and attain a score of 3 just to have a guarantee of going to a public college or university in the state of Ohio with that credit. And they don't get the credit until they enroll in the post-secondary institution that's going to accept that credit. All right. Articulated credit is relative to the career technical education. So the articulated credit is, again, not recognized until the student enrolls in a post-secondary environment. All right? So there's no college credit relative to high school transcript, and there's no college transcript upon high school graduation. That transcripted credit doesn't become transcripted until the student enrolls in a post-secondary after they graduate high school. Transcripted credit, which is what we're going to be talking about, which now in the state of Ohio, beginning in the 15-16 school year, is only going to be College Credit Plus, is recognized on the student's high school transcript and on the student's college transcript as soon as the student attains the credit. So as soon as the student completes the college course. Okay? So the student leaves high school with 2 transcripts. One from high school, one from college. Okay. So today's focus, College Credit Plus. All right. So before I go any further, I have to do the disclaimer. What you're about to see is a tool. It's a tool. It's not the law. The law is like this. You've probably seen much of it, and it's written as a law. All right. This is a tool that we constructed to try to interpret the law for in-the-field application, okay? So what you need to know relative to the law. It's highlights. It's not every little element. So again, as Tim said, your questions, and I would love to take questions as I'm talking. I can't see what that is.
So I can answer that question. You were sent an email with this link to this presentation.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
So you got a confirmation email, and within that confirmation email, if you did not, make sure we get your contact information. If you showed up today, or there was some sort of confusion with your registration, we will send to everyone that.
Sure. It's also posted on our Board of Regents website. So, but we'll make sure everybody. But yes. So this begins what you've received. Okay. So it's a guidance tool. College Credit Plus, Tim already mentioned that it replaces PSEO, post-secondary enrollment options. That has been the Ohio standard for when a student goes onto the college campus, which was approximately 50% of the students in the state of Ohio who participated in a concurrent enrollment scenario prior to College Credit Plus. About half of those students literally went onto a college campus and took a course on the college campus. Also, as part, the other 50% in Ohio who participated in a concurrent enrollment program did so under what the law called, alternative dual enrollment programs. Alternative dual enrollment programs. That's as defined as it got. All right. So most of those alternative dual enrollment programs had some other configuration of delivery, where many of the students stayed in their high school and the college came to the high school. Sometimes the multiple students from different districts would go to a community center or some other third-party facility, and the college would come to that facility. So there were all kinds of different looking programs and different looking opportunities under this alternative dual enrollment program. So College Credit Plus does supplant, replace, reform both of those scenarios. Basically what it does, just to give you an aside, it takes where the student has receives the delivery of information, it takes that piece out of the equation. What is really important from the state's perspective, and presumably most, if not everyone in the room, is that the students are learning quality college level work. You know, that it's a quality college level course. What the delivery model is, whether the student, you know, sat in this chair or sat in this chair, is somewhat irrelevant. All right? At the end of the day, this initiative, College Credit Plus, wants to assure that high school students who are qualified to do college level course have the opportunity to do a college level course, which is a college course, and get credit for it both at the high school level and the college level so that they can be propelled, you know, to beyond in their post-secondary experience. So the governor signed it, it's law. It goes into it's law now. It goes into operation in the 15-16 school year. So everything that everyone's doing now in the 14-15 school year, not a problem. You know, whatever contracts you had, whatever other programs, you know, are underway, it is not dependent on the College Credit Plus requirements. So what are those requirements? Two fundamental pieces. And this kind of goes back to those definitions. One is that the student must be enrolled in both the secondary and the post-secondary simultaneously. You know, it can't be a student who is in high school but is taking some college level something or other but not enrolled in the college. The student must be enrolled in both secondary and post-secondary. And then the student is to earn the transcripted credits. So at the end of the course, the student is successful, the student gets the college credits that were relative to that course. College Credit Plus participation, all public districts, all public post-secondary must participate. And, you know, sometimes some people get visceral reactions to the word must or shall. And really what this means is that no public secondary or post-secondary can say to their student body, to their student constituents, that they don't have access. You know, I mean, everyone here knows that a student, if you're a student, who do you have a relationship with? You don't have a relationship with a high school, you know, in a different district. You don't have a relationship with a high school on the other side of the state or a college on the other side of the state. You have a relationship with folks that are your high school, you know, that are kids and students and teachers and administration and the community in which you are part of. So if there was a public district that was exempt from participating, think of what would happen. All those students that attended that public district would somehow not have access. So by saying that all public districts and public institutions of higher education must participate, that makes sure that qualified students have, no matter where you are in the state, you have access to propel yourself as far as you can go. All non-public secondary schools may participate. All non-public post-secondary schools may participate. If they choose to participate, which the law establishes a welcome for them to participate, if they do participate, they must do so within the structure of the College Credit Plus program, which means that, and as you'll see, there are data requirements, there are communication requirements, there is transparency requirements, and all those requirements, you know, those students, their students for the private or the non-public post-secondary and the non-public secondary, those students are entitled to the same communication, the same information, the same credible coursework as their public student counterparts. So no eligible public student may be denied participation through a public college. all right? That does not mean that every public or non-public post-secondary institution has to accept the droves of qualified students that are going to be knocking on your doors. There are capacity issues. And by droves, I only hope that should be our biggest problem, right? I mean, we should have to turn students away because they're so qualified for college during high school that we just don't have enough college courses for them. So let's hope that's our goal, and not really. But it really is, over time, that would be our goal. Participating colleges must provide professional development to the high school teachers who instruct college courses as an adjunct. So this gets into qualified instructors. The College Credit Plus program, the legislation, did not change did not dot an I that wasn't already dotted, did not change anything relative to the directive that has been in place through the Board of Regents and through HLC, the accrediting body, as to who is a qualified instructor of a college course. We didn't change anything. All we did was take it from a directive level to being codified in law. Same piece of paper, same words. So there's nothing that's changed. Hello, Steve Gratz from the Department of Education. Feel free to join us. Oh, no, I'll just stay back here. Yeah, okay. Okay. The college must also conduct at least one observation of every adjunct that they have teaching in a high school, at least one observation of every course of a new section that teacher is teaching. In other words, if you've got one teacher who's teaching, and I'm making this up, English 101, at the college level, and the teacher is teaching this course, providing access to this course within the high school, and the teacher is not faculty of the university, then the university must observe the teacher teaching that English 101 course. Okay? There must be that quality. Buck stops here for accountability, and that's on the shoulders of the post-secondary. Why? Because it's a post-secondary course, because it's a college course. So we want to make sure that every student in every college course that's taking that college course under College Credit Plus gets the opportunity to earn the college credit that has the value that they believe it does. Right? So this is quality assurance. Each post-secondary must assign an advisor to each College Credit Plus student. In some cases, that's already being done. In some cases, it's not. And what this means is that every College Credit Plus student participant must have basic information before the no-fault drop date of the course as to what their responsibilities are, who can they access, and how do they access a real body if they have a question. What is my responsibility as a student, and what is your responsibility as a college to providing me this course? Now, the advisor at the college level, we really hope they're going to pick up the phone and talk to the counselors at the secondary level. Okay, this is not to say that counselors at the secondary level can't have any contact with students relative to College Credit Plus. This was an intentional, by putting this as the responsibility of the college advisor, this was an intentional strategy to incentivize the college and the high school to communicate on behalf of the student. Okay, so that's what that's all about. And then there must be scheduled at least one meeting of College Credit Plus student and advisor prior to the institution's effective drop date, which again can be assisted by the high school counselor or whoever. Some high schools don't have counselors, so whoever is in that role in that particular high school to provide counseling to students, that person can certainly assist, and we hope will assist in meeting this last requirement here, this bullet. Normally I would say, are there any questions? But I've been told I need to keep talking and questions are at the end, so write them down. Okay, districts and post-secondary, secondary and post-secondary alike need to promote the College Credit Plus opportunities on their website, and we're hoping that people aren't going to want to bury the information. You know, we're hoping that people are going to want to yell the positive, you know, the information from the top of the mountain type of thing, because we want students and parents to know. We want other teachers to know. We want everyone to know that students have this opportunity, because you never know. We want the bus drivers to know students have this opportunity, because frankly, you never know what adult is influencing what high school student. Am I wrong? You don't know. So we don't want to keep this information sheltered. We want this information to get out about student opportunities, because it could incentivize students. And there will be an annual dedicated event. Hopefully that event will be during hours when the majority of parents and students can attend. You know, hopefully, just like the website piece, it's not going to be chosen to be done at 1:15 in the afternoon when working parents can't get there. You know, but the law doesn't tell you when you have to have the event. It just says you have to have at least one a year. You can have one a week, you know, but you have to have at least one a year. And the whole purpose of it, again, is to let parents and students know that if you work hard, if you're qualified, you can do this. And this will save you time, and this will save you money, and this will stimulate your brain and make you not bored if you're bored. And this is a really good thing for you if you're qualified to participate. College Credit Plus courses, they must be college courses. They must be college courses and known to be college courses because they're in the college course catalog. And they qualify toward a degree or a workforce certification, or, you know, there's something in the end. And I've gotten the question often, you mean like basket weaving? Well, yeah, basket weaving, if you're doing an arts degree, works, you know, if that course works toward the degree that the student is working toward, then why not? You know. It must be non-sectarian and non-remedial. So it really has to be non-sectarian and non-remedial. It has to be a course that is paid for by the state, essentially on behalf of the student, and it has to be for college credit, which remedial courses are not. We already talked about that it has to apply toward a degree or professional certificate, and it has to be taught by instructors who meet the academic credential requirements, which, you know, as was noted a few minutes ago, haven't changed. The College Credit Plus, this is a new piece, and there's been a lot of interest in this new piece. And I think that this is a perfect example of how a void or a vacuum of information can create fear. Whereas, hopefully, once you learn what this is really about, your fears will be dispelled. Here's what we're saying. There has to be, each high school, not each district, each high school has to be able to respond to the student who says, you know what, I want to take the next 4 years or the next 2 years or the next year, whatever the case is, during my high school, and I want to graduate high school with 15 college credits earned on a college transcript. You know, or I want to graduate high school with 30 college credits earned on my college transcript. How do I do that? Each building has to be able to respond to that. What's currently happening is the counselors say, like Tim's slide earlier, I don't have a clue, all right? Well, there has to be some thought given to the response to that student. This isn't for every student. Our biggest problem, again, should be that we have so many students that really want to earn 30 credit hours during high school. Great. You'll create more pathways. But right now, you only have to create one that's for 15 credits and one that's for 30. They can be coordinated and thought about and developed with multiple institutions of higher education. So if you've got an idea, if you as a high school administrator, a high school building, has an idea that you've got a lot of students that are interested in science or STEM or health or art or whatever the case is, and you want to you are creating your pathway, you aren't limited to just finding one partner that can satisfy whatever it is you want to do. You can go to multiple post-secondaries, because at the end of the day, all you need to be able to do to be compliant with the law in both the letter and the spirit of the law is be able to respond and have the conversation with the student and say, here's how you do it. If you take this course and successful, and then you take this course, and then you take this course, and then you take this course, if you succeed at all those courses and follow this path, at the end, you will have 15 college credits in your back pocket when you graduate high school, or you will have 30 college credits. Okay, so it doesn't have to be and is not intended to be more rigorous of an exercise than that. And then you must publish it. You must let people know that that this exists. Okay, again, we want the information to be out there. We don't want to keep it a secret. So here's the pathway expectations. This is not in in the slide, what you printed out, all right? Because this is just for you and whoever's hearing this live streamed, and then whoever sees it on YouTube or whatever. So I'm just kidding. It's for everyone. But the college credit pathway, the expectations is that you think about, what do my kids want? Do I want to organize around a major, a pathway around a major? Do I want to organize around do I want kids to just, here's the pathway if you want a liberal arts degree. Here's a pathway if you want, a STEM degree. Here's a pathway if you're interested in, art, or whatever the case is, or healthcare. You pick what I call like a meta major. You pick a big arc, okay, and you figure out what are the first and second, if it's 15 credits, we're talking about the first semester equivalency. All right? So what would a person who wants to ultimately has an interest in science or is good in math or so may end up with a STEM-related degree, what does that person have to achieve for their first semester of college? Okay, that's all we're talking about. So you figure out what the cluster of courses are, maybe we even give the student a couple choices, and that's your pathway. So it can include various courses. It can be as broad as here's the math that's required for STEM majors, and it's different than the math that would be required for a liberal arts major. Maybe Psychology 101 would fit under both, in both hypothetical pathways. All right? So it doesn't have to be a real rigorous exercise. We just want to make sure that students who ask the question and have the interest to propel themselves that way, that the adults in their lives who they rely on to be their educators have an answer. We just want to have an answer. Okay, funding. I always have to exhale, especially when I'm not taking questions in the middle. So in your slides, there's 3 slides for funding, and I've added a couple more because I know that there's some private secondary and post-secondary here, so I want to make sure that everybody has the big picture. And I want to give you some background on the funding, because for some people who are big picture thinkers, your learning style, you need to understand how we got to where we're at, or else just starting at where we're at isn't going to make any sense, I've been told. So it used to be, and when I say it used to be, I mean prior to College Credit Plus, okay? And you probably all know this, that there was a lot of variability as to what districts got how much deducted for what college course that their students were taking based on one factor being the number of periods in a high school day in that particular district. And in some cases, in that particular high school in that particular district. Okay? So 2 students could be doing PSEO. Okay, we'll just keep it simple. 2 students could be doing PSEO, English 101, at the same post-secondary institution, taking the 2 o'clock class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, okay, the same class, sitting next to each other in that class, those 2 students coming from 2 different school districts, and those 2 different school districts paying the post-secondary different amounts of money, significantly different amounts of money. Some school districts have 6 periods in a day, some have 7, some have 8, some have 9. And if you divide a dollar amount by 6, 7, 8, or 9, you're going to get different values, right? So those 2 students and their respective districts would be, not just could be, would oftentimes be paying completely different money. Nobody, or I shouldn't say nobody, there was a lot of confusion and the perception of lack of transparency as to what was going on and who is being paid what and for what. So one of the primary objectives of College Credit Plus in regards to the funding stream, the funding formulas, was to create a common denominator, do a system that was across the board, that no matter where you were in the state of Ohio, you understood how the funding formula would work. Okay? So the one number that is consistently applied from the Department of Education is the per pupil foundation funding dollar amount. Okay? So there is a number every year, and for this current school, for the 14-15 school year, for this school year, that number is $5,800. So in order to make the formula make sense, I've plugged in numbers, but I tried to put, this is just for this school year, okay? This isn't a set in stone number because it changes, every year, or has the potential to change every year. So what we did was we took, that was one piece, $5,800. Then we heard loud and clear that part of the anxiety from the districts was that they were exposed to pay, in some cases, the full $5,800 for a student who was going full-time to the college, but still a high school student. They were exposed to the extent of the entire $5,800 to pay to the college. Okay, so the districts made a really good argument. They said, this student is still a high school student. We still have, even if they're going full-time to the college, we never see this person's body in the building, okay? However, we still have ancillary and residual costs for the fact that that student is still our responsibility, that high school student. So that made sense. So the formula says that of that $5,800 per that student is allotted, so to speak, through the district, 17% of that $5,800 is off the table, retained under all circumstances by the public district when that student goes to a public university or public post-secondary. Okay? So 83% now of the $5,800 is on the table. So in order to, again, create a formula that would work across the state, that would be transparent across the state, we took that 83% of the $5,800 and divided that by 30. And the number 30 is important because the number 30 is the number of credits for a full-time student, the number of college credits for a full-time college student for one academic year. So instead of doing this, we're going to pay based on number of periods in a high school day and da-da-da-da-da and all these different things. It was like, this is college. How about a per credit hour rate called tuition? you know? So we divided, we took the 5,800, multiplied it by 0.83, because that 17% is retained by the district, divided it by 30, and came up with a per credit hour rate, which is a ceiling, a not to exceed, because remember, that's already took that 17% off the table. So this is a not to exceed per credit hour rate. So the district that was exposed before to the full 5,800 is now only exposed for the full-time student to 83% of that, and the per credit hour rate is known, the ceiling. So at the same token, since we took the where the course is being delivered out of the all equations, so it doesn't matter if the student's going onto the campus, or it doesn't matter if, so to speak, the institution is coming to the student, or it doesn't matter if the student is going online to take, you know, the accredited course. In all cases, since the student is both a student of the high school and a student of the college, even in the scenario where the student is staying in the high school and being taught by a qualified high school instructor, the college still has ancillary and residual costs associated with providing that college course to that student. We saw in previous slides, they have to do observation, they have to do professional development, they have to they have to confer credit, they have to make sure quality is there. They still have the ancillary and residual costs. So we took the ceiling of that $160 per credit hour not to exceed number, and we took 25% of that and created the floor. Okay? So now we're protecting the districts and we're protecting the colleges. And what we heard loud and clear throughout the state was, but we have local relationships. And we don't all get $5,800 per student. Or we have this scenario, or we have that scenario, or okay, we get that. We want to incentivize creativity. We want to incentivize relationship between the secondary and the post-secondary. That's kind of an undercurrent of this whole law, is trying to get people to talk to each other and problem solve on behalf of their joint and collective students. So we said, all right, that's cool. You've got a ceiling not to exceed, protect the district. You got a floor not to go below, protect, you know, the colleges. So you can negotiate anywhere in between the ceiling and the floor. Whatever works for you will work for the state. We don't really care. We care about quality and sustainability. We just don't want something to not be sustainable, because that would be bad for kids. So currently, that's where we started. So local negotiation. Now, as the law progressed through the General Assembly and came out as law, there was an additional piece added. So the additional piece is, and you know about the ceiling and you know about the floor. The additional piece is that if your local agreement, if your local relationships negotiate a cost per credit hour that is below the floor, if you have to do it for $39.99 instead of $40, the state's going to respect that, and the chancellor's going to approve that, as long as all other quality-related and data collection and communication elements that are the requirements of the law are met. So the chancellor is, by law, required, it's a must. As long as the chancellor knows that you all have talked, you know, and you've got a plan, and you're going to communicate to parents, and you know, everyone knows who's on first and who's doing what, and kids are not going to be kind of falling through the cracks because of going to $39.99 or $0. You know, as long as it's sustainable, that's up to you. Okay? So that's where the going below the floor factors in. You still can't go above the ceiling if you're public to public, but you can go below the floor as long as all the quality measures are addressed. So what's on your next piece is our funding scenarios, and in both the green and the yellow, at least one partner is public. Okay? So I'm going to go through this, but I'm going to go through this quicker than I normally do because I added a couple more slides that you don't have to address, look, again, what's the big picture for everybody? In all cases, a common element to the funding of the law is that you start with the ceiling and floor concept. You know, because for the reasons we didn't talk about, but I just shared, you know, there's a reason why the ceiling was developed and there's a reason why the floor was developed. So there's a premise that everybody, public, private, public to public, public to private, private to public, private to private, everybody is going to start thinking about the ceiling and the floor. And then it talks about if you do the default, if you decide, you know, for whatever reason, we're not going to create an alternative agreement. We don't want to negotiate. We don't have time to negotiate. We negotiated before. We're good with it. Whatever the case is. You know, I can't stand to talk to this person, so I'm not going to negotiate. You know, whatever the case is. We don't care. There's a default. Okay? So if you don't negotiate an alternative arrangement, then the default will apply. And the default, you could probably, because you got this now, right? Yeah, okay. So you can pretty much know what the default is. The default is the ceiling of $160 per credit hour, or half of that, you know, and that's if the student is going onto the college campus. Half of the ceiling, which in the scenario of FY15 would be $80 per credit hour. If the student is staying at the high school, but the college is sending faculty to the high school, okay, it's $80, half of. And if it's the student is staying at the high school and a qualified instructor is teaching the college course, what is it? What is it? You know this. The floor. Yes. Okay, the floor. So that's the default. So you don't have to go through rigorous negotiations, you know, in every scenario. You just go to the default. If you go to the default, then the part of the default, because this always comes up and we want people to talk about this within their partnerships, is who pays for books? What about the fees? Okay, so if you're going to the default, the high school pays for books, the college waives fees. Okay, that's how that works. Okay, I'm going to go to this. So I took just to let you know, there's 2 quads here and 2 quads on the next one. So first we're going to do public high school, okay, with public college. Okay, so it's public to public. So this is on your previous, you know, just configured a little differently for different learners. The ceiling is still the 160, the floor is 40, right? The default is still exactly what we just talked about, because this is on your previous slide. So the ceiling is the 160, or half of the ceiling, which would be 80, or the floor. The high school pays for books, the college waives the fees. If the public-to-public partners choose to negotiate an alternative agreement, then the agreement must be between the ceiling and the floor, but it may negotiate below the floor with chancellor's approval. So it's just what we talked about. That's the public-to-public outcome. And students cannot be charged by either secondary or post-secondary, because this is public-public. Okay? No public student going to public-public can be charged. Okay. Now, if we go to public high school and private college, okay? Same premise of the ceiling and the floor. Okay? Same premise, ceiling and the floor. Same default. All right? So we don't want to negotiate. We don't want to create an alternative. We're going to the default. Great. ODEs, the folks that are actually making the payments, would love that. Because think about all the variables we got here. Okay, so the default is the same. However, if a public student chooses to go to a private, non-public college, okay, because the non-public college does not get the state subsidy like the public colleges do, because they're private, the negotiated alternative agreement can look a little bit different. So the premise is still the ceiling and the floor. The district is obligated to have the floor, to pay the floor, unless they go below the floor. So the district is obligated to pay on behalf of the student, their public student, going to a private institution, a private college. The district, by law, is obligated to at least contribute, pay the $40 in this case, the $40 floor per credit on behalf of that student. So $120 for a 3 credit hour course. However, since the district and the college may also choose to request that the chancellor allow them to go below the floor, what the law says is you can do that, but you can't put it on the back of kids. You can't say, okay, we're going to charge $40 for the private, but we're going to go have the district go below the floor, but we're, to zero, but we're going to charge the kids $40. No. Or we're going to add $40 to the charge of the kids. No. You can't put it on the backs of the kids. So the district is obligated to the value of the floor. So even if the district is actually having a deduct of 0, if the private college cannot charge the student an additional $40. What the private college can do is go all the way up to that $5,800 per student foundation funding. Remember that $5,800? For the publics, we multiplied it by 0.83 because the districts retain 17%. We don't do that in accordance to this law for the privates. So it's the $5,800 divided by 30 credit to create the per credit hour amount. That's not called the ceiling. That's not called, I have to repeat, this is not called the ceiling. The ceiling is still $160 by law. These are terms that are in law now. So we have to use the right language so that we're all talking, communicating the same message. The ceiling is the $160. But there is a maximum per student charge. And that is the $193, okay, minus the $40 because the district has to pay that or it has to be deducted from the amount charged to the student, okay? So it comes to $153. So if a public student chooses, I really want to go to this private college, this private university, whichever the case, whatever. I really want to go here. I'm going to go onto that private college's campus, all right? The most the private college can charge me, the student, is $153 per credit hour. And that's assuming that the district is not really physically paying the $40. So the most the student, can be charged is $153. If I stay in my high school and the private college is providing a course in the high school and their faculty is coming to the high school, the most the private college can charge me, the student, for my choice of participation is $125 per credit hour. If I'm staying in the high school and a qualified instructor who is not faculty is teaching this course that is this private college's course, The most the private college can charge me is $100 a credit hour. Okay? And no student qualifying as economically disadvantaged can be charged at all. And let me just say, no student qualifying as disadvantaged can be charged at all. This is not no district who qualifies as district-wide disadvantaged. That's not what we're saying. This is at the individual student level. Okay, so now we've got the private high school and the public college. Okay, so for purposes, well, for my brain's purposes, please allow me, Amnesty, to actually say it's a Catholic school, just for my purposes, so that I can keep this straight. So we've got a Catholic school, which is a private high school, and the students are going to a public college. The ceiling and the floor do not change. We still have the same ceiling and floor. The default does not change. The negotiating the alternative agreement does not change because it's a public college, okay? The students cannot be charged by either the secondary, either the parochial school or the public college, okay? And the students will continue to be funded out of the designated line item, or the designated funding provided by the General Assembly for this purpose through ODE. So there is no deduct from a district. This is a separate funding stream, but all of the other pieces remain the same. If it's a private high school and a private college, the ceiling and the floor do not change. Again, the whole law has the premise of try to make it work between the ceiling and the floor. There are reasons why those were put into place. However, and the default is the same. However, the state is only going to pay up to the default, basically. Only going to pay up to what it's going to pay for publics. So if there's additional costs, so if the private wants to charge the private high school students more tuition, that's between private to private relationship. What this says, though, is that the state is only going to contribute up to the ceiling. Okay? And if you don't, and that's if you have an alternative agreement. If you don't have an alternative agreement, then we're paying up to the ceiling, the $160, in the default. Okay? I'll take questions, but okay. It also says that, and it spells out in the law, the Cleveland Scholarships and Ed Choice who qualify as low income may not be charged. The law actually identifies those two scholarship initiatives. Okay, so that's the funding. That's it. Oh, I could take your question, but not anybody else's? Oh, I just have like 3 more slides. And then there's a, okay, well, yeah, you're going to sit here. Okay, no. Yeah, right, okay. All right, data, the funding takes the longest. Okay, the data, there's going to be a requirement of data. Never has been before. So we're really excited about it so that we can highlight all the best practices that are going to be going on around the state. And the data requirements will be expressed in rule. I'm going to talk faster now. Okay. Anybody here with early college, high school? Okay. So let me just say, without going through it all, you'll be fine. The law grandfathers in with these dates. And then after the grandfathering date, the way that the funding is, you can still go below there's still all those pieces. And if you need to go above the ceiling, the law talks about creative and innovative programming for these for this particular population that is now defined in law, which wasn't before. So early college high schools will be able to continue to provide exemplary college high school experiences. Going forward, the rules will be in place by February. We're working on them currently. That includes all the public comments and at least one hearing and, you know, all of the process and procedures for rules. The rules, I can tell you this, don't expect them to restate the law. We're trying really hard not to restate the law. We're trying to protect, the rules will protect the integrity of the law, okay, because as we talk to groups and we hear different questions and different people trying to figure out, you know, where are the nuances in the law that could be expanded, you know, in ways that may not be best for kids, we're going to try to tighten those up, okay, because it's to protect the integrity of the student opportunity. Defined procedures, there's a lot that needs, you know, you need to have procedures for things, and to assist you all in the implementation. So the rules are very diligently, and again, Steve, you're welcome to join. The rules are diligently trying to make it as understandable for the field, secondary and post-secondary, as we can think to be, you know, within the confines of rules. And then we'll also have some guidelines that will be published afterward. The chancellor and the superintendent will establish an advisory committee. That's also part of the law. And that advisory committee will be to assist in developing the performance metrics and monitor the progress of the program. So there is no advisory committee now because there is no program being operational, so there is no data. Okay. And then here's our contact information. You can, thank you. And enjoy your break. Is it a 5-minute break? A 10, how long is the break? It was supposed to be 15? Well, enjoy your break quickly. Huh? That's fine. That would be beneficial because I know that my colleague has another meeting. So this way he can come up and join.
Okay. So I think we're going to continue on if that's okay. If you use the restroom, they are out to your left. Please feel free to do so. And
I'm just wanted Steve. Did you have? They're getting what?
Okay. If you have a question, which I'm sure some of you do, raise your hand, and we will do our best to get to everyone. And bear with us as we do this, please, because we know there's going to be a lot of questions, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Kristen, go ahead with the first one.
Everything up there talks about eligible students. Those are the individuals that can take. Those are the individuals that can use the College Credit Plus. Can you give me an idea what an eligible student is, or is it going to depend on the institution of higher learning? Is it GPA, or is there more than that?
The quote, the eligibility. There's a couple different. Oh, how convenient. Okay, thank you. Huh? Okay, sorry. Oh, we're good. Eligibility from an enrollment into the post-secondary perspective, because there are other eligibility pieces, is based on the institution of the college. Okay, so the college needs to, according to law, the post-secondary needs to apply the same standards for admission and placement. All right. So in some cases, and it varies, you know, everybody's got a little bit different. What the law does not say is that a student is only eligible if by law they have a certain GPA, which PSEO used to say. PSEO, you had to have the 3.0 before you could even talk to a counselor about PSEO, all right? So that is no longer in the law. So the requirement for enrollment and placement is the responsibility of the post-secondary to which the student is applying and enrolling and taking a college course. Now, having said that, there is also the expectation that colleges are not going to make a higher bar or an inequitable bar for students simply because they're in College Credit Plus and the maximum they're getting paid is $160 per credit hour. Am I connecting the dots? So the expectation is that you're looking at who is qualified academically, if social emotional comes into your how you see a normal student walking in off the street wanting to go to your school. However you determine qualified, it can't be remedial. You want to set them up for success to do well in your course. Okay, so you can look at whatever data you believe to be relevant to making that educated decision, as long as it's not a higher standard for a college course.
Do you recommend that be a negotiated agreement between the post-secondary education and the high school?
There's no negotiation. It is what is already on the books at the college. It is what it is. What they already have for admission or what they already have for placement is what has to apply to College Credit Plus students. Okay. And I'm going to address this because we've had questions from colleges around the state. You cannot apply differential requirements to different age students. So we had one institution say, well, for freshmen we want it to be 3.75, for sophomores 3.5, for juniors 3.25 or 3. You can't do that. It has to be the same for all students.
The law also says that you're going to consider whatever data is available, because some institutions of higher education require, an ATC score, for example. Okay, I'm just using this as an example. So the law also says that a 9th grader, 8th and 7th grader can participate. They may not have an ACT score. They may not have taken an ACT, so you can't really look at an ACT score and you can't prevent that otherwise qualified student from participating simply because they're not old enough to have taken the ACT. So you can use your other test evaluation mechanisms to make that determination. But at the end of the day, it's the same standards that you already have on the books.
So, quick, Lauren, Tim, I'm right to your left. So, and there's many community colleges in here, if you have an open enrollment, I cannot say the high school student has to have a 2.5 GPA in order to participate if I'm not using that same requirement for someone who's 25 trying to get into college. Is that correct?
That's right, but remember, even for an open access institution, even for an open access institution, they have placement criteria. And for our public 2-year institutions and 4-year institutions across the state, it is one standard. It is the remediation-free standards. So even if they don't have a selective enrollment, they still have those college readiness criteria that they can apply.
Hi there. Is there any subsidy reduction for the public colleges that are going beneath the floor for negotiated agreements?
Higher education institution subsidy is based on completions. They are entirely performance-based. So these students will go into their subsidy calculations if they complete courses, if they complete programs. So, no.
Let me make sure I'm understanding who answered the question. This is so, okay. I'm sorry, it's so weird to talk to. Okay, was the question whether they account for SSI? The answer.
There was a bit of a rumor floating among institutions that if you negotiated below the floor, there would be implications to your SSI.
Okay, then there's no implications to your SSI relative to the tuition rate that's negotiated.
Related to that, though, Well, sorry. Will that subsidy to the colleges be those 40, 80, and 160
No.
rates? They
No.
will be calculated at the same college completion rate.
Yes,
Okay.
there's two public colleges and universities, public institutions in the state of Ohio for this program have two funding streams. One is the per credit hour tuition, the per credit hour rate, whether it's the default or a negotiated rate between the ceiling and floor or even below the floor with counselor approval. And they have the second stream, which is the SSI payment, which, as Rebecca said, is based on completion of course and program.
Okay.
Qualifications for adjunct instructors, I'm assuming that is left up to the university just as it is now?
No,
Exception.
Lauren referenced that multiple times. That has been an administrative rule for decades in Ohio. To teach college credit-bearing courses, the individual must hold a master's degree or higher in the content. So not a curriculum and instruction master's, not an education master's. It has to be in the content area. There are a couple ways that you can reach that same credential. For example, you could have a master's degree and 18 hours additional in the content, or you could have a master's degree that upon transcript review you could make the case that you have 18 hours of content within, say, a math education degree. It is incumbent on the provost or the CAO of the institution to look at the qualifications, because these folks are adjunct faculty for them like they are for anyone else. So when the Higher Learning Commission of the North Central Association comes in and does the accreditation visit for the college or university, and they say, show me your faculty credentials, those folks are in the pool that they could pull from. If they don't have an appropriate, and this is a Higher Learning Commission requirement as well, that could put that institution's accreditation at risk if they have unqualified faculty teaching courses for which they are awarding college credit.
On the Board of, let me just say, this chart, one-pager, color-coded, is on the Board of Regents website under College Credit Plus, so feel free to download it or send it to them or whatever. It explains what Rebecca just eloquently explained.
Go ahead.
Yes, right here. I saw in a couple of slides the language that the course would be transcripted upon successful completion. What if the student is not successful in the class?
So if they fail the course,
Correct.
then they don't get the credit. Just like if Mike,
But it is an F.
well, it's I'm sorry. Right, yeah. They don't get the credit, but they get the F, correct.
Right, so now on their transcript, they've started to build their college GPA with that course. So if they fail, unless they withdraw before the withdrawal date, which is another reason for the advisor from the college or university engaging with these folks, is to make sure they understand drop dates for the college and the implications for that for their long-term GPA as a college student.
And if I could just dovetail, because somebody may be asking the next question, so how does that affect payment? So the answer to that question is, once the student has remained in the course after the no-fault drop date, the college is paid on behalf of that student for participating in the course.
What is the grade level?
So one more thing about that, though, then the high school has to make a determination about whether they will award high school credit to the student for that course, because the student didn't complete it. And what the high school has done, in essence, has agreed to accept the college course as a supplant for a high school course requirement. So that's a big decision for the high school at that point. And I don't know, Steve, if you want to weigh in.
I'm not going to weigh in on that, but the only thing I'll weigh in on is that past the drop date, we talked about this, the school will be charged. I mean, that money will be automatically withdrawn. The school has the ability to request those funds from the student and the family. Okay?
Within the limitations of
Without,
economically disadvantaged.
yeah, notwithstanding the economically disadvantaged status. So,
Okay. What is the grade level? What for eligibility?
Okay.
the grade level is grade 7 through 12.
Right here. One more. Private college, private school. Can the parents be charged anything? You didn't say anything about that.
Yes, yes,
It's on the one slide.
it's fine. It's confusing. The answer is yes. So between, just closer, but then they'll hear me. Between private to private, all that the state is saying is what the state will pay. All right. Any agreement between, with parents or between the private institutions, secondary, post-secondary, is beyond the scope of the state. I'm sorry, I'm not, I don't care.
I have a
okay,
two-
back there. Uh-huh. Because the tag.
Right. The Ohio Transfer Module is a very robust process whereby courses from each institution, each public institution, 2- and 4-year, must be submitted to a faculty review panel at the state level. It is not approved as an OTM course, an Ohio Transfer Module course, unless all the student learning outcomes that are established for the Ohio Transfer Module are met. So there may be inconsistencies in that some courses are doing more than is required, but if there is a course on the books at a public 2- or 4-year institution in Ohio within the gen eds, it is in the Ohio Transfer Module, and it can be treated. They all take it as transfer across the university system of Ohio, and so they have had faculty peer review. So that's. So make sure that as you advise your students that they understand that they have an array of options available to them and that they need to do what makes the most sense for them. What is important to remember is you cannot disadvantage students for taking College Credit Plus, so you must weight them the same. They have to be weighted the same as your AP and IB courses.
Yeah, so let me. Yes. No, wait. Let me clarify this, okay? So what has to happen is that if a district has a policy that weights certain, whether it's AP, honors, whatever, where certain advanced standing courses are weighted, then they have to also have a policy that weights college courses in the same manner, okay, with the same weight. Not every district weights honors or AP, et cetera, et cetera. So the law doesn't say that you have to weight college courses. It just says, as Rebecca said, you can't disadvantage students for wanting to take a college course if their GPA is going to be negatively impacted because they didn't get into or choose to take the AP course.
But it's not the courses that are just on the public training module, it's all of them that they're taking?
It's by, so if a district's policy is to weight, I'm just going to make this up, weight AP and honors calculus. I don't know, whatever. Whatever the district policy says for those specific, you don't have most districts don't have AP and honors in every course. Most districts don't. They have selected courses that are in AP or that have honors attached to them. So their weights are relative to selective courses. So those same selective courses, if you take it at the college, have to be weighted the same as if you took that content, that AP course. Okay? Okay.
I have a question over here. I've been standing with a microphone for 5 minutes. It's a two-part question regarding the advising and counseling. The College Credit Plus event, which you have to sponsor at your high school, is that required, like the current PSEO counseling is required? And the second part is, once they have a college advisor, they have to meet with. Do those meetings have to be one-on-one, or can they be group meetings?
Yes and yes. So the designated event, what you said, hosted by the high school, what did you say? Is it required? Yes, it's required. And the second question, I'm sorry. It's for, yes, it's for parents and students.
No, but is it requisite for the students?
Is it required that they attend?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it happens before the student, no, it's not, no. So so theoretically, what we didn't change was the April 1st date for for students or parents to notify that that I am intending to participate in the fall. So that April 1st date is still in play. The designated event needs to be then before the April date. But if just because somebody wasn't, they had football practice or whatever the case is, they weren't able to attend there, does not prevent them or preclude them from submitting their notice by April 1st. Does that make sense?
And he had a second question, which
Oh.
can the counseling sessions be group?
Yes, they can be group.
Okay.
And the rules will better inform what the procedures need to be, and again, the relationship between the advisor and whoever's providing counseling services at the high school.
My question is, I know you said that it doesn't matter where the student is taking the class, whether it's on at the high school or at the college. Where does the homeschooling come in?
Okay, so the homeschool would be their homeschoolers are paid, and that's on one of those slides. Homeschoolers are paid as if they're paid $160. The state will pay $160 per credit hour, regardless of where the homeschooler takes the course. But the homeschooler really only has two choices or two avenues, which would be on the computer or on the college campus. Because the homeschooler, by virtue of being a homeschooler, is not going to have the opportunity to take the course in the high school. Home instructed. I'm sorry. Is that what you were you? Okay. I'm talking about those who are not required, who are exempt from attendance. So. Okay, maybe you could speak to this.
We'll have to take your question back to get some further, but the key thing was with homeschool students, there's a separate allocation for students that are in homeschool, so there is a totally different bucket. Home instructed, we're going to have to go back, and that one hasn't been surfaced yet. But the homeschool is relatively simple. That her diagrams indicated that one. Well,
I have a question about the funding again. We're coming from a private institution which has over 3 decades of experience with partnerships with both public and private high schools. And this model shifts the funding for the course out of the parents' and students' hands and into the high school funding, which is a radical departure. Our organization is not set up operating this way at all, and I'm afraid that our students that we're serving, it's about 1,400 students now, that could drop drastically because the high schools are now responsible for tuition, which previously was, and it's a very small tuition, it's way under your floor, but it's going to be coming out of the high school's coffers, not the student and the parents' pockets. So yes. I'm concerned about the lack of flexibility and the lack of consideration of other options that your funding plan has.
So that is, and this is, our funding formula. This is for the state.
Our
not mine.
funding plan has.
But so a private college, right, providing content, providing course.
Content,
to the public,
all the pieces are in place. The faculty development,
to a public student, yes, the district has the floor of the $40 or the ability to negotiate below the floor with chancellor approval. So what you don't have, so if you're charging students more than $160 per credit, you don't have to, I'm just saying hypothetically. So if a private college is charging students more than $160 per credit hour and those students are public school secondary students, then yes, this will be less money. If you're charging less than $160, then it won't be less money. I know they're currently charging students and not districts, but you have the ability to go below the floor and charge it. But yeah, public students aren't getting charged.
But our ability to compete for students is changed because now we're competing with community colleges who are immediately in the area. We're partway across the state. It's a complete game changer in terms of our relationship. It's redefining our relationship with the high schools in ways that we're not entirely pleased with.
Yeah, I understand that.
Hi, I have a question in the back. I'm going to take us back to admission guidelines if I can. And one of the things that I'm having difficulty reconciling, I'm speaking from a 4-year public institution. I think I heard you say that our admission guidelines for this program must be the same as our admission guidelines for entry to the university. But we are mandated under law as well to require completion of a college prep curriculum and completion of Algebra 2. And so I'm having a difficulty reconciling how we would create admission guidelines that would be fair and equitable for a 7th grader under this law.
You can wait. I mean, they can't be any higher. Candace, do you have the same at your regional campuses? Okay, so here's a public institution with, you do have the same?
Yeah, they still have to complete high school, complete the college prep curriculum, and complete
So you don't
Algebra 2.
have any post-secondary students right now?
We have post-secondary students, but we have students that have been admitted under those admission guidelines, which are grade-specific and option-specific.
Say again, I'm sorry.
So the post-secondary admission guidelines are grade-specific and option-specific.
Oh, right, the ones that were in the old PSEO, right? So 3.0 as a GPA, right?
They're different, right?
A and B are different in the current
right.
level. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you can't do that. I mean, you
right.
can't.
No, I'm just asking for guidance on what we can do in the absence of college prep curriculum.
Use all data that are available to you. So if, as Lauren said, let's say they haven't taken the ACT or the SAT, and they haven't completed all the courses, so you don't have all those data available to you on those students because they haven't had time to do all of those requirements. But you could use an Accuplacer, you could use a Compass, you could use a different type of, what do you do for students, what do you do for the returning adult at your regional campus who doesn't have an ACT or an SAT?
So I think like most public institutions, we would expect that they graduated from high school and document that.
Or or hold a GED, or
right, or general, yeah, exactly,
right.
exactly.
So, but if let's say you have a returning adult who holds a GED, do you do placement testing for those folks?
We would do placement testing after admission.
Okay.
So my question isn't about placement and how to know whether to put them in math X or Y. My question is about how do we determine fair and equitable admission guidelines in the absence of data. And really my question might be for the ODE K-12 side to help us understand what would be reasonable measures in the absence of all other data for 7th, 8th, 9th graders.
We're going to do this in harmony because but you can use end of course exams. I mean, on the K-12 side, there are more mechanisms to indicate college readiness or intervention strategies, at the K-12, particularly at the secondary level. So there's the end of course exam requirements for the graduation there's 7 course requirements for graduation that have some requisite for end of course assessment, and you can use those. as well as you can use GPA. I mean, right now, do kids submit a high school transcript and you see their GPA? You just can't create a new standard of GPA. You see what I'm saying?
So it's GPA to date. So,
right.
So what she's saying is one of their requirements is that they completed all the college prep courses.
Well, yeah.
And if I may tail onto what she's saying, in speaking of the universities that are using holistic review for students for admission, and seldom have a 3.0 or a 3.2 or a 3.7, there aren't benchmarks that say you're in or you're out. There's a wider review. And I understand that you're looking at data, but it sounds like this is something that you're creating entirely new sets of data as you get into an admissions process for a four-year university. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, your data sets for this population may likely be different than your data sets for those who have already graduated high school. I mean, just because the data aren't available, because all the data that you have for your traditional enrollees admits is not available in current time.
And even really 7 through 12, your data sets are quite different. If you're talking about an 8th grader versus an 11th grade student, there's whole different sets of data for that in that holistic review. I'm just kind of wondering how that's manageable.
So we're not expecting an onslaught of 7th and 8th graders, and you don't have to create a new admission standard. If you have an admission requirement that, I don't know, that would somehow preclude a 7th grader, they just may not be able to enroll in your institution. That doesn't mean that 7th grader can't participate in College Credit Plus. Do you see what I mean? Not everybody has to accept everybody. It's a student driven, so what the law says is that 7th and 8th graders who otherwise qualify for admittance, it doesn't mean qualify for admittance to your institution, okay? That they can't be precluded by virtue of the fact that, it's Doogie Howser. I mean, I'm dating myself, but you know what I mean. Really.
What about application fees?
What
about application fees for college applications?
That is not allowed under College Credit Plus.
So we have to change our policy based upon this new?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then you talked about the pot of available money for private schools and homeschool students. And in the past, that's been a real interesting process for those folks.
Right.
Is there going to be a limit to that pot of money?
There is a limit to the pot of money.
So how will you handle that in terms of communicating that to the students who applied? And
so there is a limited, it's not infinite. There is a limited amount of money, and the rules will indicate the procedures that will happen relative to distribution of that money.
Okay, so these rules will be out in February?
They'll be public before then, but they'll be in place by February. In other words, part of the rules process is public hearings and public comment, et cetera. So they'll be out before the end of the year for public review.
Okay. One of the concerns I have as a college is we're communicating with high schools now who are trying to do all of the preparation for next year. We're trying to improve our publications, change policy. It's really hard to do that. I know we've been anticipating it, but the sooner the better for all of us, I think.
Well, and you do know, based on the law and this PowerPoint, you can anticipate what the maximum payments will be. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some information that you have. What you don't have is what will be the distribution, system for those monies. But you know that it's finite pot, and you know the maximum amount per credit hour that'll be paid, which is the $160.
Okay, I have a question, a clarification question, actually 2 parts, regarding weighted courses. So if your school district one of the school districts you work with, they weight AP and IB courses on one level and honors courses on another level, which level do college credit courses have to be weighted on?
So if it's the same course that's offered in AP and honors, then that's a good question, and I would think maybe there's a broader discussion at the local level as to how that works for kids.
Okay.
But if the course at the AP is AP history, and the course at honors, that's weighted is chemistry, I'm just making that up.
Okay.
Then if the college course is chemistry, it would correlate with the honors weight. If the college course was, what did I say, history, it would correlate with the AP.
Okay, so then
But if there is the same course that you offer AP, you offer honors, and you offer at College Credit Plus, and those have different weightings,
Right.
I would make the case that the College Credit Plus course must be weighted the same as AP, because an honors course does not guarantee college credit, either transcripted or articulated. So I would make the case that it would need to be wherever the AP course was.
All right, so thank you. The second part of my question is in regards to the weighted courses, because I actually work in a university, but I've had these questions from guidance counselors in my area. In regards to the weighted courses, first we heard that if you have weighted courses, all college credit courses are weighted. And then we heard it was just content area. So if the school district, not the high school, but if their district offers, say, an English course in one of the schools in the district that's AP, and we weight the College Credit Plus English course in any school in that district. However, the psych course that they don't offer AP or IB, do we have to weight that then in that school district, or is it a content area course?
I would only look at if the student has access to that course, that should drive it. So some
Okay.
people are taking a course via distance and different. If it's happening within the district, they could do it distance. But if the student has access to that weighted course at the high school level, then the rule applies.
Okay.
It's content, but it's access.
Yep.
It's access and
Yep.
right.
So they can be in one school that offers it AP, but they go to another school in the same district, and it's not offered at their high school. So then it's.
Do they have access to it, even if it's at a different building?
So within a district,
Yeah.
if a student is in one high school within a district and another school in the district offers an AP course, but their home school doesn't, sometimes districts say, come on over and join.
Okay.
So that's access.
Okay.
If
All right.
there is that mobility and access available within the district, then it has to apply to that student's access.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, back here.
Hi, good morning. Mine is a financial aid question. I heard that a student's financial aid, once they graduate from high school and apply for financial aid, that it could be affected by the number of college credits that they have completed prior to graduation. Is there any truth to that?
Public institutions may not do that. They may not disadvantage student scholarship eligibility based on the number of credits they've earned. So if they've earned 30, it doesn't matter. They cannot disadvantage them. And private colleges and universities that participate in College Credit Plus may also not disadvantage the students as it relates to scholarships. So that the 30 credit hour thing that's been floating out there about financial aid it's not really founded in any valid concern.
Hi, I just wanted, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to beat the proverbial dead horse, but clarification about, okay, conceivably you could have a 7th grader wanting to do this. Would a private institute of higher education be allowed, though, to say only juniors and seniors, or would we not be allowed to establish that kind of threshold?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
You can make that selectivity.
The question I have is there's a conversion for the college credit contact hours to high school credit, and being that we need credit still to graduate, how does that conversion come into play?
So where we've landed on that currently is that for a 3-hour semester course would equate to 1 credit hour locally.
Three credits or more.
3 credits or more. Yeah, it's 3. That's kind of the threshold. 3 credits or more would equal 1 high school credit. Realize you still have to meet the high school graduation requirements for the student to graduate. So,
Whoa, yes.
I have
right now. Right now it's 0.67. Okay. Go ahead. Let me just clarify this. So here's the thing. Right now, or prior to College Credit Plus, it was 0.67, I think it was. It was 0.67, okay, was it, right? And again, it was correlated with the number of, there were a lot of quarters. Now all the colleges, except for a couple private, is what I was going to say, are on semester. So here's the thing, from the student's perspective, I still have to take all my high school graduation required courses. I have to complete I have to get my 18 points for high school graduation. Nothing changes in terms of what I need to learn at the high school level and how I need to demonstrate that knowledge, okay? Now, but if I'm taking a college course which supplants a high school required course, okay, then I get the unit for that high school required course. I don't get 0.67 of the unit for that high school required course, where my friend who takes that high school required course in some other room at the same time during the day gets 1 unit, and I get 0.67. That makes no sense. So the discretion here is that if it's a 3 credit or more college course, it equates to 1 unit. Okay, that's the only.
Right. So
below 3 credit hour college course is proportional to that 1 unit. So if it's 2 credits, it's 0.66. You know, if it's 1 credit course, it's 0.33. And a lot of this impacts the labs. For like biology or something, where there's a lab and it's a 4 credit hour course or something, you still get 1 unit.
Lauren, quick. So if someone is taking English 1010, and it's their senior year, and they take it the fall semester, that counts for their entire English senior Carnegie unit.
Yes.
I think that helps maybe clarify.
Because
I'm not saying that's the way it used to be. That's not. I understand. It used to be, folks, I understand what it used to be. It used to be
0.67?
Correct. 0.2 1 semester hour currently equals 0.2 Carnegie units. They are saying that is changing. It is now, correct? I don't have to I'm not using a formula to get to the Carnegie unit anymore. You're saying 3 semester hours.
Right.
If I take English 1010 in the fall, all right, and it's my senior year, that counts for my senior English for that year.
Yes. Now let's look at it from let's understand the genesis of this. Okay. So a student is a full-time student. Whether that student has some of the courses that they're taking where they only get high school credit during the day, or whether they have some courses during the day or all the courses during the day for which they get high school credit and college credit. They're still just a full-time student. They have to be enrolled in both places. So if a student gets to their senior year, okay, and they have completed their high school graduation requirements, let's just say, I'm giving you 2 scenarios. So they have completed their high school graduation requirements. They're still enrolled in high school. They can take, the advanced chemistry course, okay, I'm making that up, hypothetically, in college, get the college credit, the 3 credit hours for that advanced chemistry course, and get an additional high school unit on their transcript for science, or whatever chemistry would fall under EMIS. Okay? So that it's not just that they're getting elective high school courses, they're getting what they took at college, they're getting the unit for it, recognizing learning for their high school transcript too. If they get, so how many English courses do they need? 4. So they need 4 English courses. The senior year English is not a graduation required English. The 4th unit is their fourth unit, but there isn't, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't a course that is required for graduation for high school English for 12th grade. They have to have 4 courses, right?
So here's the follow-up to that then. With these new graduation requirements about now they have to do these, exams to show that they've mastered, this content. If they're taking English 10 at the college level, do they now going to have to come back and take that test at the high school, or is that test waived for them?
There are 7 tests that students have to take, and the 2 math and the 2 English tests, they still have to take those PARCC examinations. Okay.
So even if they're not on our campus, if they go take it at the college campus, we don't see them, they're going to have to come back to our school
That's
to
correct.
take those tests.
That's correct. And then on the side of the American history, American government, and science, we're working through the process of using the grade that the student gets through the College Credit Plus will be weighted for that score that will add up to the 18 for graduation. Because we're allowed to do substitute exams for those 3 areas in AP, IB, and College Credit Plus. But the other ones, in math and English, we can't have substitutes for those.
Okay.
So regardless of where the student, if they're doing it in the high school, they take the end-of-course exam. If they're taking that as a College Credit Plus, they still have to take that credit or those examinations.
So my second question is a little bit different, but I work at a career center. It's a 2-year career center. We have 16 different school districts we work with. We're a public school. So earlier it was said that we have to create a pathway 15 and 30. Are we allowed to partner with our home school, our associate schools? Because that would be really difficult to get 30 hours in 2 years when you're already doing a career technical.
Well, I would definitely partner with them, but I would also think about doing your career tech as part of the program as well.
Right, but even when you do that, it's still going to be difficult to get 30 hours in 2 years.
It is, and so you look at the life of the student. So without a doubt, it's the same way when you look at your articulation agreements. The student can start their career tech program at 9th and 10th grade and just move that over to the career center as well. So you look at the student in that totality.
Right, but if we're a public school and we're only 2 years, we're still required to have a 30-hour pathway in 2 years.
Again, partner with the local districts. Yep.
To piggyback off on the 15 and 30 credit hour pathway, as we're creating those, I had a question about that. Does it have to be a specific course? For example, College Writing 1 plus, 4 other courses or 5 other courses to meet the 30 credit hours? Or can we say an English course and then have selections that students can choose from for the English or for the math or for the social science?
I think anyone would applaud choice. But it's not required by law.
Hi, I am at a college, and so are you saying when we meet with our advisees, is that one-on-one? Because could that be a group at orientation, or could that orientation, if we cover that, suffice or a separate?
It can be a group, and the rules again will kind of flush this out. It can be, it can be one-on-one. It can be not one-on-one. It can be face-to-face. It cannot be face-to-face. It can use technology. It can hopefully include the counselor at the different high schools. So the key is that the students get the right information in a timely manner. The question is, can we do that at orientation? The answer is yes. The question is, can we do that at orientation? The answer is yes, assuming that all of your students are going, all of the College Credit Plus students are going onto your campus and are going to be at that orientation. But if there's somebody, it just depends on your circumstance. But the key is that students get all the information they need in a timely manner.
Hi. I just want to clarify one last time, because I know at our table it is drastically different. We have always said 2 of the college courses equal 1 of our high school credit. 2 of the English composition courses come together to equal 1 high school credit. So if that's different, I understand you're saying ideally students could move on and take additional courses even if they've met their 18 points. But that would then cost the district again, correct? Because if we're pushing the students to go on and take more college credits, the district is now responsible to pay for that. And are we going to see an influx of students asking to graduate at semester of their high school year? I just want to make sure we're all understanding that.
Okay. Okay, we're going to share the mic. It is under College Credit Plus. It will likely be expressed in rule because the rules are not out yet. So I want to make sure folks recognize where we're at in the process. Okay, but it is being contemplated significantly that a college course that has 3 credits or more is 1 unit. So you can't split like you expressed at the beginning of your comment.
Okay. Last
Well,
question.
she had a second.
Are you still?
she had
I'm sorry,
a
ma'am. Go ahead.
second
Go ahead.
I
I'm
would
sorry.
just
So I
say
wanted to
that,
be
you know,
clear.
we've worked hard to get our instructors qualified to teach dual enrollment and offer a variety of courses, but I don't see that we would be pushing our students to continue on when it's going to cost the districts more money. So if I have students that are in Comp 1 as a senior first semester, I'm not sure I would be saying to them, and please continue in Comp 2 and we'll pick up the bill.
Well, this is driven by the students. So it's not the and this is not, again, remember the big objective is to allow students to do as much of this as they're qualified to do.
Correct,
Okay,
because it all weighs
so-
on our report card. So we want them to carry
well, not
on.
just because it lands on your report card, but because it's in the best interest of the students. Additionally, there's accountability on the post-secondary and the secondary side to make sure that we're giving Ohio students as much opportunity to attain as much as they are capable of attaining. So what can't happen is that a high school cannot kick a student out and say, you're now done.
Well, I don't think we'll be
because-
kicking them out. I think they'll be asking to leave, and I just want to make sure we're okay
So
with
do they have the ability to graduate early? I mean, if the student has met those requirements, you could look at that. But I don't know that students would necessarily want to leave earlier because then they assume... Students wouldn't want to do that because then they assume the full cost of their post-secondary education. So it's the most economical way right now for them to stay in the school and realize you still have that ability to negotiate below the floor. And if you'd really pencil that out, I think you're going to find from a student's perspective and even from a district, it's the right thing for the students.
All right, last question right here.
Hi, my question is regarding the number of credits or semester hours or college credits that a student can take per year. Currently, we are allowed our students, we have 8 periods in the day, so our students can take 40 hours a year, and we do have students doing that. So my question is, how many hours can they take per year, and can they stray away from the 30-hour pathway?
The district will only be obligated to pay within that formula of the full-time for the full-time student. So that's if it's a public district, public college, it's that $5,800 times 0.83 divided by 30. So that 30 is critical. So this district will only be obligated to pay up to no more than 30 credit hours per year.
Okay, and if the student then wanted to take additional, they would pay themselves and arrange that with the
could
college?
I mean,
but
this
only
does
30.
not preclude anybody from doing what used to be PSEO-A, which is, parents paying on their own, students doing it on their own, and
That can be negotiated.
Yeah.
The one thing I would encourage, if you have some of those students that are taking in excess of the 30 hours, that's something that you can put in the agreement, because you can, the 30 times $160, that will max out. So negotiate below that, and that helps the student out from that standpoint.
Okay.